Hi, my name's Ankit.
And my name's Ellie, and welcome back to In2Med.
In this video, we wanted to do something different and give you guys a snippet into one of the lessons from our own personal statement course.
We developed this personal statement course to help students understand what it takes to write a great personal statement.
And in this lesson, we specifically wanted to focus on the qualities that admissions tutors are looking for and how you as prospective medical students can show this.
We go through an example personal statement and analyse how he managed to demonstrate the core qualities needed.
And after that, we look at some ways on how you can take your personal statement to the next level and really try and distinguish yourself.
This lesson is accompanied by a booklet which you can access by clicking on the link below.
This booklet will cover all the information that we mentioned in the video.
And if you enjoyed this video but wanted to find out more about writing a good personal statement, you can always do the full course on our website or on FutureLearn.
So sit back and relax, and we hope you find this lesson useful. So, hello again, and welcome to Lesson 3 of the Personal Statement course, Personal Statement Basics. Now, in the last lesson, we looked at the various steps required to apply to medicine, and what we're going to do this time is specifically focus on the personal statement, starting with the very basics. So this lesson is going to be split up into 3 main parts. First, we're going to have a look at an example personal statement. Then, we're going to learn what are universities actually looking for. And then most importantly, we'll learn the key lesson. How can you show these qualities? So without further ado, let's get started with Lesson 3, the Personal Statement Basics.
According to the UCAS website, a personal statement is your opportunity to sell yourself to your prospective school, college, or training provider. In reality, this means that your personal statement is your one opportunity to really talk on a personal basis with the admissions tutor of your desired medical school. So let's imagine a scenario. You're competing for the very final place on your chosen medical school course, and your admissions tutor is comparing your application with an application of an identical candidate in every single way. Same exam results, same predicted grades, same teacher reference, everything, except for the way you've written your personal statement. This can make a huge difference to whether you'll get that place or not. So how long can the personal statement actually be? Well, in reality, the personal statement has to be a maximum of 4,000 characters, which roughly equates to about 500 words, or it has to be a maximum of 47 lines of 12-point script, whichever comes first. You'll have to fit your personal statement in the special box on the UCAS website. So we recommend that you actually draft your personal statement just in Microsoft Word, and you tweak it and make sure that you've got the perfect version, and you can use the word count in Word to see how many characters you're taking up. Then once you're happy with your personal statement, you can paste it into the special box on the UCAS website and check that it conforms with all of the rules about how long your statement can be. Just remember that this is 4,000 characters with spaces and with all punctuation. So in reality, what does a personal statement actually look like? This is an example personal statement written by a student called Ben. He used this personal statement to get into his first choice medical school, and we think it's a really good one. I think it's worthwhile just having a quick read of this personal statement, just to get a sense of the way it's written, the kind of content that people put in it, and the way it's laid out. And just familiarize yourself with what a good personal statement looks like. Don't worry about analyzing anything in too much detail at the moment, just have a quick read. Now, there's no such thing as a perfect personal statement, but I think you'll agree that this comes pretty close to what it would be. Notice how full of content it was. It's clear that this personal statement is the culmination of quite a long time of hard work and dedication to becoming a medical student. So let's have a look at why Ben's personal statement is so good. What are universities looking out for, and how can we fulfill these criteria in our own personal statements?
So now that you guys have all been through Ben's personal statement, I'd just like to reiterate one thing. Notice how full of content it was. It's really impossible to write a good personal statement without having all the hard work, dedication before that, so you have a lot of elements to put into your personal statement. And that's exactly what we're going to focus on now. But before we do that, what we really need to do first is actually understand what the universities are looking for. And it just so turns out that there are actually tons of qualities that these admissions tutors will be looking for. And that's what we're going to try and understand now. So in the booklets, use the space on the page to brainstorm all the qualities that you think are required to become a good doctor. And then after 5 minutes, we'll go through and check if you've missed out any of the list. Now, I will let you know that we do have the answers on the next page, but really try and do this without cheating. It's much easier to remember them in the future if you come up with them by yourself, and you'll really understand it much better. So I'd say, hit the pause button now, and let's check again in 5 minutes to see all the ones that you came up with. Okay, well that should be 5 minutes. So what we're going to do now is go through each of the qualities that we think are essential in showing that you want to study medicine, and you can just tick them off your list and add in any of the ones that you forgot. So the first quality that we came up with is empathy. And we think that this is essential for any doctor. Now, a lot of students get confused into what empathy actually means. And it's very possible to confuse this with sympathy. Now, anyone can be sympathetic, but it's only someone that has skills can show empathy in the right way. So if I were to explain it to you, sympathy is just the act of feeling sorry for someone. However, empathy is that unique skill which allows you to put yourself in someone else's position and understand the emotions that they might be feeling at that time. And this is very important because it helps doctors understand and relate to patients who are suffering from a variety of conditions. And this is really important, for example, when you're breaking bad news to a patient and their family. It could be really easy to just say, "I feel sorry for you." But the ability to put yourself in that patient's shoes and their family and understand what this diagnosis is going to have, now that's a really important skill that very few people actually have. The next quality that we had is motivation. So I'm going to be quite honest with you guys, medicine is a very difficult career. It takes 5 to 6 years at uni, and then there's such a long path till you get to consultant. You're going to be working night shifts, you're going to be working long hours. It is very difficult, and that's why motivation is key. The next quality that I think everyone will have written, because it's the most popular for some reason, is communication skills. I think it's very easy to understand why communication skills are very important. However, it's getting more and more important in the more globalized world that we see today. You're going to be seeing patients not just from different countries, but from completely different cultures who might not even speak your language. So it's not just about speaking well, it's about being able to articulate and really being able to explain a complicated message to lay people who might not even understand scientific terms. And that's why you really have to develop some good communication skills. I think the next few, being honest, ethical, and working in the NHS guidelines, are really quite self-explanatory. Being a doctor is a very respectable profession, and therefore I'd say you wouldn't want to behave in any way that you wouldn't want a doctor to behave with you. And one of the final qualities that we had is the ability to work with others. It's important to realize that despite you doing your degree, working all those hours, you're never really going to be working alone. You're always going to be supported by a team of other healthcare professionals. And that's why, even if you prefer working by yourself, and granted, we all do sometimes, it's really an important skill to develop, to be able to work with others, listen to other people's opinions, and how to get the best out of a team. Because frankly speaking, that's what the NHS really is. So a lot of these qualities, I'd expect that they'd already be on your list. But there's one quality that students surprisingly miss out all the time. And I read a lot of personal statements, and they have examples about them being really ethically aware, having these great communication skills, doing work experience, working in a team, even under stress. But there's this one quality missing, and it's just I can't even understand it. And that is academic potential. It's very important to realize that medicine is one of the most intellectually demanding degrees out there. There's a lot of people out there who can work as a team, show empathy, be really nice individuals and caring, and can also have really high ethical awareness. But not many people can memorize all the bones in the human body. And frankly speaking, that is what you have to do as a doctor. So on top of all the qualities that you've shown before, you have to show signs that you are interested in science. You are going beyond the course. You are academically and intellectually curious to find out more. Because as a doctor, you're always going to be learning, and alongside that, you're actually going to be taking more and more exams. So showing that you are driven, science does come fairly naturally to you, and you want to find out more, that is a really important quality to show. However, I'm going to burst your bubble here and be quite honest with you. It's not good enough to simply write all these qualities in your personal statement and say, I am really ethically aware, I can work with others, because no one is really going to believe you. But that, of course, brings us on to the next really important question. How can you actually show these qualities? Well, the answer is quite simple. It's simply by providing a lot of evidence in your personal statement. So remember Ben's personal statement. He didn't say that he worked very hard. He had a good understanding of the medical career. He told you all the pieces of work experience he'd done that would make you believe this on your own. He told you about all the extracurricular activities that he got involved in. And he told you about all the volunteering that he did, which demonstrates to you that he has empathy and can care for others. But work experience isn't the only piece of evidence you can show. So what I want you to do now is, again, use the space in the booklets to brainstorm all the different pieces of evidence that you think you can use to show admissions tutors you have all those qualities required to become a doctor. And I think you'll be really surprised that there's so many different ways of actually demonstrating these qualities. Now, again, the answers are on the other page, but I think you'll get a lot more out of it if you come up with a piece of evidence by yourself. So what I want you to do again is click the pause button, have 5 minutes to brainstorm the ideas, and then we'll go through them again in a bit.
Okay, let's go through the best pieces of evidence that we can provide in our personal statement and see if they match up with what you've just written down. The first 5 pieces of evidence that we're going to discuss are the absolute essential components of your personal statement. Medical schools will be scanning your personal statement for these things, and if they don't see them, that could cost you. Point number 1 is your reason for studying medicine. Now, this has to be personal and unique to you, and it has to prove to your admissions tutor that you really want to study medicine. The later points that we'll discuss, for example, work experience and reading, will all feed into this one goal for studying medicine. So it has to be a really convincing point. Wanting to do medicine because it has a good salary or because your parents told you to will not cut it in your personal statement. On the other hand, having some experience in a hospital setting or in any kind of caregiving setting where you were really struck by the kindness and the compassion of the staff there, and maybe you thought that was something that you wanted to get involved in, that sort of reason is going to look a lot better to admissions tutors. But remember, most importantly, personal and unique to you. Point number 2 is work experience. Now, this is even more important for medical school than for other subjects like maths, science, art, history. Because being a doctor is such a challenging profession, and so it's so important to have a good understanding of what you're getting yourself into. Now, don't worry, we're going to go through work experience and the following points as well in much more detail later on in the course. But it's just something to keep in mind as we go through. Point number 3 is volunteering. Having experience with volunteering shows that you are caring and compassionate, which are arguably 2 of the most important qualities of a doctor. Point number 4 is reading and academic enrichment. At the end of the day, medicine is a scientific career. Like scientists, you should have an interest in reading around the subject and increasing your knowledge base. But as well as reading, this could also involve going to conferences or lectures or anything else like that. And finally, point 5 is extracurricular activities. These are the sorts of things like drama, music, or sports that you might get involved in outside of your subjects. Medical schools want students who have a bit of character to them and aren't afraid to be adventurous or try something new. So showing that you have a life outside of your academic interests can be really important. So just to reiterate, those 5 points are really absolutely essential for your personal statement. So I'd just go through the points written down on your paper now and check that you got all those 5 points. And if you haven't, fill in the blanks. Because if you miss out any of those 5 key points in your personal statement, you're automatically at a disadvantage in your application. Now, don't worry if you don't actually have experience in all 5 of these points yet. In our next lesson, we're going to go through in depth how to get these experiences and then how to record them while you're doing these experiences so that you can then write about them in the best way in your personal statement. So these 5 points are the absolute essentials for your personal statement, but we want your personal statement to stand out from the crowd. So Ankit, how can you take your personal statement to the next level?
Well, Tom, it just so turns out that there's a lot of cool ways to take your personal statement to the next level. But before you do this, I would really encourage you to focus on the basics first. Only after you got comfortable including those 5 really important, essential bits of evidence would I focus on the next ones. But if you are interested in taking your personal statement from the good to the great level, here are the pieces of evidence that I would include. The first is research. It goes without saying how important research actually is, and it surprises me how many personal statements I read in which students just don't mention research at all. A lot of the things that we use regularly wouldn't be possible without many years of research. This includes the food we eat, the cars we drive, literally every drug that's used in medicine today. I think the reason why a lot of students don't include research in their personal statement is because they don't really understand what research is. Research doesn't have to be developing that groundbreaking drug to cure the new disease. It doesn't have to be this revolutionary thing that comes out of nowhere that no one has ever thought of before. Research can be as simple as conducting your own little experiment in school, or just taking a lot of pieces of information from different sources and synthesizing it together to form your own conclusion. That counts as research. And a very good opportunity to do research is by doing an EPQ at school, which is an extended project qualification. I'd strongly recommend you to do an EPQ because it demonstrates that not only are you interested in research, is that you're going beyond the syllabus, and it also shows organisation skills as you have to balance this research project alongside your studies. But don't worry if doing an EPQ isn't available for you at your school. It doesn't have to be just that. It literally can be any small science project or any project that you've conducted either at school or at home that just demonstrates those key qualities. Bringing together information from other sources, and most importantly, having your own opinion about it. Now, the one piece I would advise if you are doing an EPQ is don't do it about antibiotic resistance. For some reason, every student seems to do it about this, and admissions tutors have become so bored about reading about this that you might as well not have done it in the first place. So when I was applying for medical school, I did my EPQ on chess, specifically measuring whether there's a link between intelligence and chess ability. For this, it was really quite simple. I called my friends to my house one day and I gave them an IQ test to measure their intelligence. I then organised a small chess tournament and ranked people's chess ability from 1 right to the end. And then it was quite simple. I just drew up a simple correlation, seeing if their chess ability matched with their IQ ranks. And what I found out is that it did to some extent, not perfectly, but I did find a sort of positive correlation. Now, I'll be really honest with you. There were a lot of flaws in my experiment. Of course there will be at that age, and a lot of the conclusions that I was making probably weren't even that true. But what it did show is that I was willing to propose new ideas, I was willing to conduct my own experiment, and I was confident enough drawing up some simple correlations, combining them with some sources on the internet to form my own opinion. And that's what admissions tutors really do want to see. The next way to take your personal statement to the next level is by showing some evidence of travel. And that might be really difficult in the current climate, but if you are able to do some travel, it could really help gloss up your personal statement. And when I say travel, I'm not saying go on holiday to Barbados and spend all your time on the beach. Nor am I saying you have to go to Africa and volunteer for 3 months in the child camps and refugee camps. The reason I'd say travel is so important is because medicine is becoming really globalized. And what it does is that it gives you an example, a first-hand way to experience other healthcare systems. Each healthcare system has its own advantages and disadvantages. And it's only by going to these other countries, exploring their cultures, seeing their healthcare systems, can you work out how the NHS is better in some ways, but also, more importantly, what it can learn from other cultures to improve healthcare in the UK. For example, when I was applying, I travelled to India to see how their healthcare system worked. And what I found was truly remarkable. On one hand, it really made me value the NHS because I saw poor families who weren't able to afford good healthcare for their relatives. But on the other hand, there were a lot of lessons to learn. So if you can do travel, I'd strongly advise you to do it. Not only will it give you extra pieces of work experience or volunteering opportunities, but the key thing is it will enable you to compare that healthcare system to the NHS. And only by doing that will you be able to understand the true value that NHS brings and how it can improve in the future, which I think is really important. And so rather than just reading a book, I think this is the best way of ticking off that quality in the checklist that we had, understanding the NHS. And that will really look good to any admissions tutor reading your personal statement. The next way to take your personal statement to the next level is by actually demonstrating some knowledge about how the NHS works. Now, no admissions tutor wants to read a manual about how the NHS was formed, but doing some work experience or any experience that gives you an understanding about the pros and cons and allows you to evaluate the healthcare system as a whole, that'll be really useful. The NHS is an organisation that you're going to be part of when you do become a doctor, and so you want to have an idea of what it's all about. So you can find out a lot about the NHS by reading the NHS website, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other YouTube videos which will basically break it down to you how the system works, because it's constantly changing and updating, and it'd be very good if you can understand this. The last way to take your personal statement to the next level is linking together all your work experience, volunteering, and reading. And the reason that I've put this right at the end of this lesson is because it's actually the hardest skill to develop. So we've covered the checklist, we've covered all the different pieces of evidence you can use to do this, and a lot of students will do exactly that. They'll simply list out all the pieces of experience in order to tick off those different qualities. However, by linking together your different experiences, what it does is that it makes your personal statement sound like a journey, which it should be. And the key thing is that this demonstrates to medical schools that you've done all your work experience or your reading, not simply to tick a box, which a lot of people will do, but because you genuinely have an interest and a passion for the subject. So let's take an example, because that's the best way to understand these things. You could do some work experience where you followed a psychiatrist. Now, after that, what you could do is then you could go and read a book about psychiatry. And then after that, you could follow the author who read that book, or you could attend a lecture series about a specific condition you either read or saw during your work experience. So what this shows is that you've actively pursued your interest and you've developed skills along the way, becoming more suitable for medicine in the process. And that is the key thing that admissions tutors want to see. So, well done, you've made it to the end of Personal Statement Lesson 3, the Personal Statement Basics. You should now know all the qualities required to get into medical school, but most importantly, all the different ways of showing it. We've covered the 5 basic pieces of evidence that you need to put into your personal statement. And then I've given you some ideas of how to take your personal statement to the next level. So what we're now going to do is focus on individually into those different pieces of evidence, what they are, how you can find experience, and most importantly, how you can write about it. So have a read of the booklet again, watch the video again if you've missed out anything, and when you're ready, I'll see you in Lesson 4, Gathering Experience. So we hope you found that lesson useful. And if you want access to the full course, just click on the link below to our website.
And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next time.